Welcome to Shoulda Known. I'm Venomous, and with me as always is my hetero life mate,
Titan.
On today's episode, we're going to be discussing brand loyalty.
Yeah, so Venomous and I had a heated conversation a few weeks ago, and it was discussing certain brands and how, like, no matter what, you kind of stick with that brand, or at least that's my opinion. And so that was what this conversation was about. It's just the difference in personality towards certain things and how different people like, a specific brand, no matter what, they like that brand. So that was kind of what this discussion was about and our experiences with that.
We'd love to interact with you, so please like, subscribe, and leave a comment below.
So I had the idea for this episode based on our conversation a few weeks ago when you and I got into a heated discussion and disagreement on certain vehicles, right? And it reminded me of the times in the past where we had our heated discussions regarding Apple versus Android, right? And so I thought about how we could have a more contentious discussion on brand loyalty. So the way I look at it, like I'm not typically loyal to, like, there are certain things, like I like certain brands of ketchup or mayonnaise or whatever. But if there's a big sale on the store brand, I'm buying store brand. Like I'm not that loyal to it. And so, for example, just to put it out there to the world, our discussion was, you told me my next vehicle purchase would be a Tesla. And I responded that it would be an electric car, more than likely, yes. But I don't know if it'd be a Tesla. And you said, I don't know. Or you said, no, it would be because they're the best. And then we had the disagreement about whether or not they're the best. So to put my money where my mouth is, I went and rented a Tesla Model 3. And then yesterday, I went and test drove a Hyundai Ioniq 6 and Ioniq 5. And I read a lot of car articles because it's one of my top reads. I just enjoy reading news about cars and stuff. I think it's always fascinated me. One of my favorite shows is Top Gear. And everything I have read has talked about how bad the build quality is on Teslas. Now, they have improved. That's true. But when you start getting towards your end of quarter builds, they start getting bad again because they're trying to push out the vehicles because they're a publicly traded company. So they have to hit those numbers, those production numbers. That's when you compare it to other car manufacturers. And so as I test drove the two vehicles, Tesla was cool. It was fun to drive. I had a ton of wind noise. Like, it sounded like the car window was open a little bit while I was driving. And there were some other features that cars have had for 30 to 40 years that Tesla couldn't do. So, for instance, I couldn't turn on cruise control in the morning because the sun was hitting the camera, because it uses the cameras for sensing all that. Whereas a standard car, I can hit cruise control and it's still going to cruise. It may not do the adaptive cruise control, but it'll still keep the speed at least set. So that was annoying. But there were some other things. And so when I test drove the Ioniq 6 and the Ioniq 5, which price point are actually, well, now cheaper. They just announced there's a huge discount on the Ioniq 6. It makes it about $9,000 cheaper than the Tesla at the same range. And so much nicer. It rode better. It was so much quieter. All of those things. And I like, and this is my personal preference, I like for something like that to feel like something from the future. You like the minimalist look. I didn't like that minimalist look because I felt like it was minimalism to be cheap.
I love it.
And I know that.
Oh my God, I love it. I love the minimalist.
But it's
everything.
Minimalism to be cheap, to keep the price down. It's not.
Get me. No, but it's beautiful.
Not. They have.
But
you have this minimalist look,
it's still
and then you
beautiful.
put a 13-inch iPad in the middle of it. It breaks it up.
It's still beautiful. Yes, it's beautiful.
And this,
absolutely beautiful.
Okay,
You're
so
wrong. It's
let's go back to the brand loyalty part of it.
That's okay.
So in the brand loyalty scheme of things,
that's okay,
because we've had the same argument versus Apple versus Android. You were like, Apple's much better. Apple's so much better. The Apple iPhone is not better than the top of the line Samsung. Power, speed, processing power, all of that, Apple is behind. But you would still argue that Apple is better. Or even if you did concede,
I think Apple is.
yeah,
Hold on.
yeah,
Hold on. Apple is a better put together package.
When was the last time you tested
It's a better put together package.
as an example?
It's been a minute.
Yeah.
It's been a minute. I'll admit it's been a minute. But I used to have a Samsung phone because I used to do demos for work that required
Android.
me to have
Sure.
a Samsung phone. So I've had exposure to Samsung phones
Right.
over the years, and in my experience, they are just a better put together package. Even if on paper the camera on a Samsung phone is better, there's some magic frou-frou that Apple does that makes the image just look better than Samsung. There's something about the software that they do and whatever to process the image. So like, yeah. So anyway, so to me, again, it's like, I'm looking for the whole package, and Android is disjointed. The user experience is not great. I mean, my mom has a freaking Samsung phone, and it's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
See, I disagree.
Right? Like, it's fine. It does
So
things.
you're basing that on your feelings,
It does things.
not actual data. So I'm a data person.
No.
No.
Come on.
No,
It's
we're going
not-
to go back to the.
no.
So Tesla's
No,
same
no,
prime
no.
example. You said Tesla's the best. I said based on what? Everything I read puts Tesla at the bottom of the list between build quality, reliability, and what you get for your money. And yet you say it's the best. The only thing it's the best at is 0 to 60.
I prefer it. I prefer it.
Right.
0 to 60.
Yeah.
It's going to be one of the fastest cars on the road.
Yeah,
Bar
except
none,
for
right?
the Ioniq 6 I drove yesterday is
I
just as
agree.
fast as your Tesla 3.
Wait. I agree. I agree with the road noise on the Tesla Model 3. So the Model 3, definitely road noise, but like, you're surrounded by glass.
Sure. I am in the Ioniq 5 too.
You're surrounded by glass. Does a Ioniq have like a glass roof?
It's not the entire thing,
Okay.
but it's
Well-
like 4 feet by 3 feet across, like, or maybe 5 feet long. It's huge chunk of glass up top. And so the reason why Tesla has horrible wind noise is because they didn't use framed glass door windows. They used frameless, like you'd see in a convertible and things like that. And because of it, you get excess noise. But that's where I feel like we're trying to make a cheap car to satisfy that $35,000 price point, which, by the way, you can't find. They won't make that version. You have to buy the next level up. You can't get it for $35,000 without tax incentives, but you still base a lot of your stuff on what you prefer, not facts and data. So that's what my point is. So you are a brand loyalist. You will stick with a brand even if it's not the best.
I'm looking for the whole package, right? One of the things that the Tesla has, there's two things that Tesla has right now that no one else does. They've got the largest supercharger network, which to me, if you're driving an electric and you're driving it for more than just driving it around town, super important. I have to drive 60 miles one way, right? So that's probably 120 miles. Well, no, more than that. No, it's around that. It's around 60 miles. Yeah, 60 miles, right? I'm charged at 80%. I've got to charge by the time that I come home. I still have battery, right? So I drive down to DC, drive back, still have about 20% of battery left. Great. But if I'm in a pinch, or if I'm uncomfortable with the level of battery that I have left, I've got a plethora of superchargers around me that I can
I want to talk
use.
to that point.
So that's one thing. Hold on.
I want to talk to the point first before you move to number 2. Let's talk to that point. Okay. To that point.
Okay.
So one, you say it's 120 miles. Your Model 3 is supposed to get a lot more than 120 miles on a charge. So why are you only at 20% battery if you've only done 120? Because you should be at 260 is what you should be for your range?
No.
What's your range supposed to be?
No. I think the range is like 225 or something like that. I've got the long range, so I don't know I don't know offhand what the
long range is supposed to be like 300.
But it doesn't matter.
It does, because
So it doesn't matter, right? So when you look at those ranges, you know that it's under like perfect conditions.
I know, but that's my point, is that Tesla's actually having to roll back theirs because they've been way overestimating the range when they sell the vehicle. Okay, so second point. So your Tesla superchargers, that's great until next year, when you're going to start seeing these other car companies plugged into the same supercharger network, because they're now doing a partnership with Tesla to also use their superchargers. So you're going to try to pull up to that supercharger.
Okay. Well, I bought my car 2023, right? Like 2023.
Right, but it's and that's true, but it won't be going forward, is my point, because you're going to have that option with other car companies too, to use a Tesla supercharger. Right?
That's okay.
So but that null and voids the point.
That's all right, but not everybody's going to adopt it immediately.
Sure.
So it's still going to be a couple of years before the other EV manufacturers
they're just giving an adapter
or come with the Northern America
they're actually just
standard.
Going to supply an adapter is what they're doing.
That's okay. I have an adapter for non-Tesla chargers.
So point 2. Yeah. What's your point 2?
No big deal. Point 2 is that they have the most amount of data for training their AI.
Okay.
Out of any other manufacturer.
Let me ask you a question. If I set the speed on my car, and then based on the car in front of me, it slows down, is that autopilot? From a term, is that autopilot? Because everybody else just calls it simply adaptive cruise control. Tesla sells it as autopilot.
It's autopilot.
It's just adaptive cruise control. It just speeds up and slows down based on the car in front of you.
So instead of creating multiple terms for adaptive cruise control and for full self-driving, they just call it autopilot for simplicity.
So the full self-driving is a misnomer, because even with that, like there's videos of people having it in full self-driving, quote unquote full self-driving, and like it runs red lights and stuff. Like it's bad that they name stuff this way when it's not truly that. Like that's like the old cruise control.
But that's not factual, right? Like that's just a
except for most people
right?
don't.
Like who cares about
the
the
thing
name?
is, most people don't think about that. Like back in the day, when cruise control first came out, turned on cruise control.
But dude, like you get all sorts of warnings. Like you get all sorts of warnings.
Like the fact that
through your screen, right? That warn you about. First of all, there's videos that walk you through how autopilot works and explains to you what you're responsible for as a person behind the wheel. Then when you engage it, it tells you need to have your hand on the steering wheel. So like there's all this is explained throughout the experience of owning the Tesla.
And that's great. Except for, you know what? My gas powered car has that same technology. Like I got a 2022, I had that same technology. They don't call it autopilot. They just call it adaptive cruise control with steering assist. And it does the exact same thing.
Okay.
So it's just Tesla mislabeling things that aren't really that. And they have all this.
I disagree.
They have all these disclaimers because they don't want to get sued. But they are being sued because of false advertising with some of it.
Well, I disagree.
No, that's facts. That's actually stories about this.
Well, I know. No, I understand what the market is doing. No, I understand what some people in the market are doing. Totally understand that. But I disagree. It's just the name. So it uses the same system. So the same system is used for adaptive cruise control with lane keeping or whatever it's called as the full self-driving functionality. Same system. Why are you going to call the same system two different things? For simplicity, autopilot. Got it. Super easy to remember, right? Like grandma, grandpa don't have to remember a bunch of different names for the same exact feature. Like I get where you're going with this, right? Which is like, well, Tesla is misleading. You were saying, well, let's be factual, right? Well, if you want to be factual, like to me, that's something that's more of a preference than a fact. Yes, there are people that are trying to sue Tesla or have issues with how Tesla names their technology.
You're saying it's all one thing, except for on Tesla's website itself, it's 4 separate things. You have autopilot, which is cruise control, that controls your speed. You have steering control, which keeps you in your lane. You then have the one where you can turn on your signal and it'll automatically change lanes. And then you have full self-driving. Those are 4 different things.
They are the same system.
What do you mean by it's the same system?
They're the same system.
Explain when you say it's the same
system. All of those functionalities.
No, because you have to pay for each. You have to pay
all the
for
same
3 of them.
System. They're all the same hardware. They're
okay,
the same
so
system.
you're saying it's because they all use the same cameras that are built into your car. That's what you mean by it's the same system. Because you can just pay extra and turn it on.
No. It's not just that it's using the same cameras. It's using the same cameras. It's using the same computer system. It's using the same software.
Then why do I have to pay an extra $15,000 to get the full self-driving mode? Because you do.
Okay, well, Tesla is valuing that differently, right? For full self-driving.
But it's costing them nothing to do it. They've already put all the stuff in there. So they're going to charge you an extra $15,000 just to flick a switch to say it's now available.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Dude, like that's what they choose. That's what they choose to they have chosen to do. They as a company have decided that they see a ton of value if and when the full self-driving is actually good, because it's not great. It's not great. I've used it extensively. So I've had my Tesla for 3-4 months now. 4 months now. And out of those 4 months, I used it for 3 months. And is it perfect? Absolutely not. Do I think that Tesla should be charging for a beta feature? Absolutely not. And that's why I have voted with my wallet and chosen not to buy it. Everyone's got a choice, right? Tesla makes it very clear. If you want full self-driving, it's going to cost you $12,000. Elon has gone on record saying that he believes that once full self-driving is really good, people can make money with their Teslas. So when they're not using it, right? Like he believes that the full self-driving feature provides additional value that traditional cars don't. So he wants to charge a premium. That's his choice. I, as a consumer, can choose whether or not I want to buy that feature or not. And I have chosen that it is not good enough for me to pay for right now. That's it.
Where was I going to ask next? There was a question I was going to ask. So, actually, one I do have is back to brand loyalty. Did you even test drive any other vehicles?
No, because I know what I wanted.
Right.
I've wanted a Tesla for years.
So you wanted the brand. You wanted to have a Tesla parked in your driveway, not the best car for your money.
I think the Tesla is the best car for my money.
Okay. So when Elon decides to drop the price on the cars and you now lose value in your car, that's okay for you? Because that's not the best car then.
That's fine. I mean, like, I don't really care.
Until you go to resell it.
My car is not an investment. Oh, so I know that my car is just an expense. It's an expense, right? And it's something that I'm going to spend a good deal of time in because of the sort of drive that I have. So I want to be able to enjoy it, right, while I'm driving, and that's all I really care about. I don't know how long I'm going to have the car. Is the car going to last me 5 years? Is it going to last me 10 years? I can't worry about that. Every single car, yes, loses value. And when Tesla lowers the prices, I know for some people, like especially when they bought just before the price change, I can understand why they're upset. But like, I just don't care. I paid for my car because I bought the car because I can afford it, and it's something that I enjoy.
That you bought it.
And I know that it is not an investment. I'm not going to flip the car, right? Like I'm not going to resell the car for money, right? So don't view it as an investment. I think some people, quite frankly, are a little bit of I understand why they're getting upset about it, but like my outlook is way different than theirs. Same thing with my house. As a matter of fact, like I'm cheap. I think I paid way too much money for this house. But you know what? This house is not an investment. All right, kids.
I was just saying, well, it is.
Yeah. No, it's not. So if you think about accounting principles, your home, if you own it, is a liability.
That's true. Yeah.
So that's why I view homes and cars the same way.
So
now with a home, hopefully the value goes up. So there is a difference there.
So on the other kind of mind, when I'm buying something, especially a car or even a home, I look at what's that going to do if I ever have to sell it. One, because I go through cars bad. Like I'm trading them in every like 2 or 3 years. Like honestly, I should lease them more often than I do, but a lot of times because the lease deals aren't always great at the time. So it's better to buy like.
And you have before. You used to, didn't you, before lease? Did you lease at some point?
My previous car before this one was a lease. But when I went to get this particular car, I have a Hyundai Santa Fe 2022 Limited. At that time, it was going to cost me like $5 or $6 grand to lease it just out of pocket. And then the payment was going to be basically the same as if I financed it. So I was like, well, screw it, I'll just finance it. Because then at the end of the lease, you got to just give it back. At least this way, you can try to get it in and maybe not lose as much on it. Actually, I made money on a car, but it was because of the whole chip shortage. But I bought it and then traded in 2 years later, and I actually made money on it, even when you account for my payments. But that's just because the chip shortage made things crazy. But I always think of these things.
Oh, wait, but like, so how much money did you make on it?
After payments and everything, after the 2 years I had it, I still made like $1,500 on it after all of that.
So that includes all the gas that you paid for, the maintenance that you
Gas
did?
doesn't count because I pay gas for any car I drive. You're talking about the electric.
Of course it counts.
Yeah,
it's part of the value. It's part of the car, right?
No,
like you paid for a vehicle.
That's not.
There was
that's
maintenance
the expense of
and
running
gas that
the
you
car.
had to get.
I don't consider
Yes,
gas.
of course. That's an expense.
I'm talking
of
about.
the car.
I was able to buy something and sell it for more money than I spent to buy it. I was going to pay for gas either way.
At the end of the day, you're still probably, paid more for owning the vehicle, the total cost of ownership of the vehicle over the 2 years. Right? Like,
not in this case.
I understand what you're saying, right? I bought it for X amount of money.
Yeah.
I bought it for $10,000, and now I'm selling it for $1,500.
$15,000
or $15,000. Sorry.
Yeah,
I get it.
Yeah,
I get your point. Yeah.
But I think about those things, right? So I always think about those things when I get a car. So I don't like. I would never buy a Mercedes, at least not brand new, because they have one of the worst resales on them because they drop so much value when you drive it off the lot. There's other car companies that are like that. Now I would buy one used so that somebody else already took that hit. And actually I prefer to buy used, but I can't, again, sometimes it just doesn't work out. Maybe I went to buy a truck one year and it had only been out 2 years, and to buy the used version was going to cost the same as a brand new one. So then I bought the new one. But most of the time I try to buy used just because, again, I don't want to pay that.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose that initial depreciation for that vehicle.
Yeah. See, and I don't, and that's something that's not important to me.
And you do keep cars for a really long time.
For a real long time. I still have like my 10-year-old Kia Optima in my driveway. And Mrs. Venomous wants to sell it.
Yeah.
I know, it sounds funny. But I don't, because one of the kids is going to need a vehicle at some point to drive, and I'm cheap, right? And so when they're starting to learn how to drive, they don't need anything fancy. They just need something that can get from point A to point B.
And something safe, has airbags and stuff.
Exactly. So, anyway.
But yeah, I think, and that's where I think.
Yeah, but it's not important to me.
Again, the brand thing to me, because if you look at my history, like take cars, for example, I'm all over the map. I've got Korean, Japanese, German, and American, Americans really made in Canada or Mexico, but still, you're actually buying more American if you buy a Korean car than you are if you buy something from some of the American car companies. But anyways, I'm all over the place. I don't particularly care unless the brand itself has a bad record or reputation for reliability. There is a particular one, I won't name names. Actually, I will. It's now owned by Stellantis, so Dodge. Dodge and Chrysler, years ago, I can't speak for now, but years ago when I was in the market for a truck, they had horrible transmissions. Okay. Yeah. My ex-father-in-law went through 2 transmissions in 4 years. And it was before they had their warranty on them. So he paid for 2 brand new transmissions in his truck.
Damn.
And just 4 years of ownership. So, and he didn't drive it like off-roading or anything crazy. He just drove it to and from work. So they had a bad, and that's why a few years later they came out with a lifetime powertrain warranty because they were having that issue. But
Yeah.
So I stay away from certain brands that have had those issues.
Kia used to be really terrible. Kia used to be notoriously terrible.
Kia and Hyundai, because they're the same company.
They turned it around.
Yeah. Oh, they did. They were the most boring cars out there. And then a few years ago, they stole designers from Mercedes. They ended up building the designing place right next to the Mercedes Design Center. So that way the workers didn't have to move. They could just go to a different place. And
that's a pretty baller move, man.
Oh, yeah. That's why for a few years, Hyundai's looked a lot like Mercedes was because of that. And that's where I go to, like, just across the board. To me, it's like, what do I want in a vehicle? And that's where you and I will differ, and that's fine. That's a difference of opinion. You like the minimalist look. I don't care for that particular minimalist look.
Dude, I love it. When I saw that, I remember, like, I had an emotional reaction. And by emotional, I don't mean I cried like a little bitch. But I definitely, like, I'm like, oh wow, like, this is really good. Like, I like that. I like that minimalist look.
Yeah.
So and it wasn't one of those things where, sometimes. So here's one thing I'll say. So the design of the Model 3, which is what I own, by the way. The design of the Model 3, they look like a frog or a fish.
Yeah. They do look like a frog.
They don't look aggressive, right?
No.
Except the 2024 model, which now just is now available in the US. But so when the Model 3 was first announced, I was like, yeah, you know what? Like, I like Tesla. I like the idea of getting a Tesla, but I don't know if that's a Tesla that I want, because I didn't particularly feel that the body design was very appealing, right? So, and it's grown on me over time. I still don't think it's necessarily the most attractive vehicle on the outside. I prefer the look of the Model S.
Oh yeah, the Model S is
now
sleek.
The Model S is very sleek, right? And it's got more. It's got more going on in the driver's area. Mm-hmm. It's got like a secondary screen and all that sort of stuff. The accoutrements, right, of a luxury vehicle.
Right.
Which, the Model S is supposed to be a luxury vehicle. The Model X is supposed to be a luxury vehicle. The Model 3
be for 100 and
is supposed to be an affordable vehicle.
Yeah, but is it affordable at 45 grand?
I didn't pay 45 grand.
Okay.
I think most Teslas now are. I'm 100% willing to share. I paid 40 grand for my car.
Okay.
So I got the Model 3 long range with blue paint and the premium interior.
Okay.
So I have the nice, like, the beautiful, like, white seats with a white trim.
Yeah.
It looks. That makes it look like it's more of a. Yeah, dude, it looks so sexy.
Yeah.
Oh my god! It really does. That elevates the car in my opinion. So anyway, so that's why I got it. So even with getting the premium interior, would you pay extra for?
Sure.
I paid 40 grand.
Okay, that's fair and fine.
Which is not bad, right? It's not bad.
It isn't for an electric car. It is for a small sedan. Right?
Yeah, but it's an electric car of a non-luxury class.
Sure.
And to me, like 40 grand for it, it's long range. So it's like 200. Oh yeah, it's like 230 something miles, supposedly the range.
And it's good you own cars for a really long time, because you will have to drive it for about 6 years before you will save money compared to buying a gas-powered equivalent of that car.
Okay.
For example, I had a Hyundai Elantra inline, right? Which was like the souped up, it wasn't the N, but it was still more powerful horsepower, all that, right? Premium, everything. It was really nice. And I think I got it for 32. So, and it's the same size, interior and everything as the Model 3. So one thing I'll say, so driving the Ioniq 5, actually I want to back up. One thing you said, and I think it's funny because I was telling this sales guy yesterday, it's funny that we care about what the outside of the car looks, because we only see it when we walk up to it. the entire time we're inside of it, you can't see what it looks like. Like in that case, you did what you wanted, which is the interior is what you liked, and the interior is all you really see.
Yeah.
Other than the little bit of hood, you don't see any of the rest of it. So why do we care?
Yeah.
You know? But
now
but
the look of the Model 3 has grown on me over time, but I didn't initially. I wasn't blown away with it.
Yeah.
I really wanted a smaller Model S is what I was expecting when they announced the Model 3.
So I test drove the Ioniq 5 yesterday. I actually have it extended. I have it in my driveway right now, right? They give to me as an extended test drive. And I test drove the Ioniq 6. I preferred the Ioniq 6 from the way it fit me in the seats. But I think it's because it wasn't the Limited, and the Limited has more bolstered seating, and I'm a bigger guy, so it doesn't fit me as well. But the thing about the Ioniq 5...
So how did you fit in the... So let me ask you, how did you fit in the Model 3? Because... So I've got a pretty big behind, and it's a little uncomfortable on my left cheek.
That part was
a little uncomfortable on my left cheek.
Yeah, that part was actually not so bad. What hurt me is every time I got in and out of the vehicle, it would tweak my right knee.
Yeah,
and it's because of and it's going to be a problem, I think, with a lot of electrics, depending on how they're built with the steering wheel and stuff. And it's because there's no step in; it's just that flat bottom. You know.
Yeah.
So that part I did not care for at all. I love the way it handled the Model 3. Going back to that, I love the way it handled. It was fun as hell. It's like driving a go-kart, the way it handled around curves and stuff. But you do find that with most electrics nowadays, as long as it's not like the really sluggish ones. Like there's a couple out there that are definitely on the cheaper side. They don't have any kind of power. But the Ioniq 6 and the 5, if you get the the version, they're still quick. 0 to 60 and all that stuff. Like we were driving around last night, and I stepped on the gas in sport mode and freaking got butterflies on your stomach, with the acceleration. But the thing about the Ioniq 5, it's funny because we're in this Apple store here. The front displays, because it's white, it all feels like it's like actual Apple. It was almost like Apple built that car. And it was actually really sleek, and I like the high tech portion of it. But what was really nice about the Ioniq 5 is it was very open feeling. It was just very spacious, and like you could move the center console back and forth to make room and stuff. And it was a really amazing feeling car in the end. And the Ioniq 6, I felt from a looks department, I think looks better because I think it looks a lot like a Porsche. But
God,
some people
both ugly. I can't get past that.
And you don't like look.
I'm one of those people, man.
Yeah.
I like it from a certain angle. So like when you're looking at it from the front, or if you're looking at it from the front at an angle, super sexy. I remember seeing that for the first time. I was like, whoa, that looks good. And then all of a sudden you start looking on the side.
It looks like it's got a droopy butt.
Towards the back, I'm like, oh.
It looks like it has a droopy butt in the back.
Messed it up.
But I like the EV6. The EV6 is from Kia. I haven't driven it, but looks-wise, on the outside and inside, it looks like a
for whatever
nice
reason,
car.
I'm not remembering what the EV6 looks like.
One I would test drive is the Nissan Ariya. I'm okay with the way it looks. It looks like an SUV kind of, but a lot of the stuff with it, the technology and the things that they put into that are really impressive. So from that aspect, I would look at the Ariya. So my feet is hurting and my knees is hurting. But anyways, so to me, and that's the thing.
I had to shift back and forth.
Like I'm not in the market to buy at this time. It was an interesting conversation we had the other day, and I wanted to discuss it. And it's funny because yesterday, so I test drove and went and rented some of these vehicles to really get a feel for them before we had this conversation. But if I was in the market, I would probably test drive like 5 to 6, maybe 7 different vehicles that are in around the same price point to try and find the one that I fit the best and has everything I want in it. But what's interesting to me is I was looking up different cars for the electric in that price point, is that you have Tesla, Hyundai, Kia, Cadillac's not far off. Like there's a version of the Lyriq that's only a few grand more. Like they're pricing themselves almost all about the same until you get to the, like a Model X or Model S kind of thing. But one that I would love to see come to the US that I think is a really nice looking car. Lucid is a very nice car, by the way. But it's too expensive.
Yes,
I can't afford that.
And I've seen those on the road around this area.
Gorgeous cars, but I can't afford that.
Beautiful cars, dude.
Yeah.
I heard though that I think they recently laid off a bunch of people or something, or that Lucid isn't doing well financially.
They need to create a cheaper car. They need to come up with like what, because honestly, I think Tesla would have still done well because so many people love the Model S, but the Model S wasn't $110,000. It was like 65, 70 or 80, something like that, like starting.
Right.
So I think Lucid needs to come out with a version of their car like the Model 3, that's something that's a little bit more affordable for more.
But you know what,
bigger
though?
Market.
So Tesla started with the Roadster.
I know, which was awesome. Which was a
it was a Lotus, right?
Company? It was a Lotus. It was a Lotus with an electric engine in it. Oh,
yeah.
You should go watch the Top Gear episode where they test drove the Tesla Roadster.
I did.
Both of them broke like in their test drive. So they're actually, Tesla wouldn't let them test drive their vehicles for years. They finally did test drive the Model X 5 or 6 years later. But I was saying,
I think one of the reasons is that Jeremy Clarkson. Well, they're all of them.
Well, he crapped on the Roadster.
They don't like. Traditionally, they have not liked electric vehicles. Sure. So
you should see his review of the Model X because he definitely liked it. But there's another car company, and you can't buy it in the U.S. yet, but in a few years you probably will, and it's Chinese, and that's BYD. I don't know how they say that, but BYD.
Never heard of it.
It's actually in China. It's the biggest car company, electric, and it's quickly becoming the biggest in Europe. But they have a car called the Han. Definitely look at it. It's, in my opinion, a very beautiful car on the outside. It's a lot like it. It goes up against the Model S, and price-wise, I think it's like $25,000 less. But if exterior and interior, I like. For all of the right reasons. But again, you want the more minimalist look. So, if you like minimalism, I have a car in my driveway you'd love. It's a Chevy Spark because there's like nothing to it. It's very minimalist.
I'm good. I'm very happy with my Model 3. Thank you.
That's our second. That's our to and from school car. So it's.
Oh, okay.
But,
so yesterday, speaking of like just feeling, the funness of the car. So yesterday, for whatever reason, I needed some time to just like reset my brain.
Sure.
So I went out on a drive.
Yeah.
And oh my God, did it feel good? Driving through some of the back roads, and so I went from where I live to Maryland, and then back to Virginia, and it was just. It just felt so nice, so good. It was like relaxing, and it really helped me just get my focus back. You know what I mean? Or get my mojo back.
I miss back roads like that.
It was but you know what? It was great just being able to go and have that fun car and have that drive. It was awesome.
Yeah. I have some back roads here that I can take when I want to kind of do that, but they're not like back east. It's too flat here, so you don't get the same funness.
Of the ups and downs, and the curves and everything. So, now, I was safe, kids. I was safe. I didn't go too crazy, and I only drove on roads that I was familiar with already.
I don't know what that disclaimer is for. I mean, you can drive on roads you're not familiar with as long as you stay on your side and monitor. Obey traffic rules.
Sped up a bit on roads that I'm familiar with.
No, we didn't speed at all, and always maintained and observed posted traffic notices.
I'm a law-abiding citizen in every way. Yeah, absolutely. No speeding, no way.
So something was cool. In the Ioniq 5 that I'm driving, they have a heads-up display, which is super cool. And it has an AR version. Huh? What?
How well does it work?
Really well.
How well does it work?
No, I said really well. It works really well.
Okay.
Like it had, so it showed like So, in the Tesla, you have that view where it's showing what it sees as far as the cars and stuff in front of you. So this had that as a heads up display. So you could see like cars crossing in front of me and stuff, which I'm like, I see them crossing in front of me. So I don't know what you're giving me there, but whatever. But it shows those same signals to show where you have cars or stuff that's near you with the radar or cameras or whatever. But it shows what the current speed limit is. It shows your speed. And then if you have your navigation turned on, it'll actually show where you're turning and the street name and stuff like that. So it was really cool. So I thought it was, I've always wanted to try it. And what's funny is it's not new technology. I had a friend who had a Pontiac Grand Am. It was like a 1996, I think. Maybe a Grand Prix. I think it was Grand Am. But anyways, doesn't matter. And it had a heads up display. It was just a reflection of the speedometer, but it was still there. Yeah. I don't know why more cars don't have I remember seeing those.
Yeah.
Because it's so nice to not have to look anywhere else but straight ahead. When you're driving, which is where we should be looking.
Maybe the old HUDs didn't work great.
Yeah, I mean, it's just at speed, but still, I mean, back then it was just the speedometer. Anyways, but it was just cool. I really like that feature. So I don't like plugging it in. I don't like plugging it into a 110 charger because it just takes. It told me it's. We were talking about this earlier. It's like, but it's. I checked it this morning after it charged all night, and it's telling me it's got 66 more hours to go.
Yeah.
So, dude, that's brutal. So for anyone thinking of getting an electric, you definitely want to get your own wall charger, 220. So.
Yeah. So I had the car without the wall charger for a couple of weeks when I bought it, and there's a couple of superchargers in the area. But they're both like 20 minutes away from my house.
Oh, really? Okay.
So for those couple of weeks, it was a pain in the butt, going out, to the supercharger, charging it up, driving it back. And then by the time I drove it back, I was already like 10% or whatever it is.
Right. You already lost some,
lower, right? I already lost some charge, and so, oh God, what a pain, dude. But when I got the wall charger, dude, it's just a life changer. Totally amazing. I get home, park the car, plug it in. Boom. Yeah, like it does for me. I think it charges. So I was about 50%. I was about 50% the other day because one of the things that I do is I try to let the battery run down occasionally.
A little bit, yeah.
Because it's supposed to be better for the battery when you run it down. Right.
Yeah.
And so I don't keep it plugged in all the time. I probably keep it plugged in more than I should for the battery, but whatever. I'm making an effort here. And anyway, so I think it was about 50%, and it said it was going to be a little over 2 hours to charge to 80%.
Okay.
So it's great, right? The 2 hours, more enough time, go in, whatever. If I'm really in a rush, I can stop by the supercharger, charge it up. And then go on my merry way.
So when I rented that Tesla, I got up the morning because I was having problems trying to figure out certain things. Because cruise control things, I was trying to figure out how to turn stuff on. Because I didn't get a lot of time the night before. And so I was like, well, I'll go out and I'll drive, whatever. And so I went and driving around. And then I was like, well, let me take it to a supercharger. There's one actually pretty close to my house, so it's not a big deal. And I was like, and I had already seen videos that said, navigate to the charger so that way it preconditions the the batteries and stuff.
Yes,
I was like, cool.
Preconditions the battery.
It was a little chilly that morning for Houston. It was like 40 degrees outside. And so I did all that. And then I get there and it still said it was too cold to charge on fast charge. So it was only 30% is what it needed. It only charged 30%, but it still took like 25 minutes to do that on a supercharger. But and like I said, even though I preconditioned it and drove around for 45 minutes beforehand, it still said the batteries were cold, which I didn't understand. But maybe I did something wrong.
Yeah, I've never had that issue at all.
But I will say it was cool.
Much further north than you.
I will say it was really cool when I just unplugged the charger and got near the thing and it opened up, and I just plugged it in.
Oh yeah, the little flap. Yeah,
that was kind of cool. On the Ioniq, you can do it from the inside of the car. No, you can push on it. If you're near it with the key fob, you can push on it to open it, like tap it. Or there's on the key fob, you can hit a button and open it. Or you can do voice control from the car. You can actually say, open the gas, whatever it's called.
Yeah, you can do voice control with the Tesla too.
So it was nifty.
Yeah. So that's it for today's episode. We'll be releasing these bi-weekly. That's been a little bit of a lie recently, but we try. As a video to YouTube and an audio version on all podcasting platforms. So please make sure you subscribe and check out the links in the description for more content like this. That's it. Thanks for watching, folks.
Bye. See ya.
Don't buy an Ioniq 5 or 6.
Don't say that. They're awesome.